Welcome to Law Story. In today's video, we are beginning a new series, the story of Muammar Gaddafi, a man who would rise from the harsh deserts of Libya to become one of the most infamous and controversial leaders of the 20th century. His rule would last for over 4 decades, shaping Libya's destiny and leaving behind a legacy of revolution, defiance, and bloodshed. But before the world knew him as Colonel Gaddafi, he was just a poor Bedouin boy, growing up in the shadow of colonial rule and inspired by dreams of Arab unity. This is where the story begins. Muammar Mohammed Abu Minyar al-Gaddafi was born on the 7th of June 1942 in the desert near Sirte, a small coastal town along the Mediterranean. His family were Bedouin Arabs from the small Kadhadfa tribe, a minor tribe with no great wealth or power. His father, Abu Minyar, was a humble goat and camel herder. His mother, Aisha, was illiterate. Gaddafi's early years were shaped by poverty and tradition. He lived in a simple Bedouin tent, wore traditional robes, and spent much of his childhood tending livestock in the harsh desert climate. Electricity, books, and even shoes were luxuries far beyond reach. But while Libya's deserts seemed timeless, the wider country was in turmoil. Since 1911, Libya had been an Italian colony, seized during the Italo-Turkish War under Mussolini's fascist regime. Libyans endured brutal oppression. Tens of thousands were killed in concentration camps during the 1920s and 30s. By the time of Gaddafi's birth in 1942, World War II had turned Libya into a battlefield. The deserts around Sirte witnessed the clash of great armies: Erwin Rommel's German Afrika Korps and the British Eighth Army. Gaddafi would later recall how his tribe sheltered under palm trees as bombs fell from the skies. After the defeat of the Axis powers, Libya was placed under Allied administration. Finally, in 1951, Libya declared independence as the Kingdom of Libya, with Idris al-Senussi crowned as King Idris I, the only Idris. Libya became the first country to achieve independence through the United Nations. But independence did not bring equality. Libya was among the poorest nations on earth. Most Libyans were illiterate. Infrastructure was limited and oil had not yet been discovered. For young Gaddafi, the new kingdom represented not opportunity, but betrayal. He saw Idris as a puppet of the West, granting Britain and the United States military bases on Libyan soil. At the age of 10, Gaddafi began attending a Muslim elementary school in Sirte, where he quickly gained a reputation for intelligence and determination. Later, he continued his studies in Seba, a larger town in the south. But it was not books alone that shaped him, it was politics. In the late 1950s, Gaddafi became obsessed with the speeches of Gamal Abdel Nasser, the fiery Egyptian president who had risen to power after overthrowing King Farouk in 1952. Nasser's vision of pan-Arabism, socialism, and defiance of Western imperialism lit a fire in the young Libyan's heart. Gaddafi, still a teenager, began organizing small circles of students to discuss revolution. He hung pictures of Nasser in his dormitory, memorized his speeches, and dreamed of a united Arab world. In 1956, when Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal and stood against Britain, France, and Israel, Gaddafi celebrated in the streets. But his activities caught the attention of authorities. In 1961, while studying at Seba Secondary School, he organized a demonstration against King Idris and Western influence. For this, he was expelled, yet the expulsion only deepened his resolve. Gaddafi decided the military was the key to change. In 1963, he entered the Royal Military Academy in Benghazi, a place intended to serve the monarchy, but ironically, a breeding ground for revolutionary thought. Here he gathered a secret group of like-minded cadets, young men who, like him, believed King Idris had betrayed Libya. Inspired by Egypt's Free Officers movement, Gaddafi called his group the Free Unionist Officers. They swore oaths of loyalty, not to a monarch, but to an idea, to overthrow the king and create a new Libya. Gaddafi's military training would take him abroad. In the mid-1960s, he studied in the United Kingdom, training at the British Army Staff College in Beaconsfield. It was an ironic twist. Britain, which maintained military bases on Libyan soil, was unknowingly sharpening the skills of the man who would soon expel them. During his time in Britain, Gaddafi was said to be fascinated by discipline, ceremony, and technology, but disgusted by what he saw as Western decadence. He returned to Libya, more convinced than ever that the monarchy had to go. By the late 1960s, Libya was on the brink of transformation. Oil had been discovered in 1959, and by the mid-1960s, it was bringing in vast revenues. But instead of prosperity for the people, the wealth flowed into the hands of King Idris and his court.
Geological exploration gear and drilling rigs were brought in ships to Benghazi or Tripoli from Europe and North America. Most of the freight was offloaded on the docks of Tripoli, and many thousands of tons came ashore. Months and years of costly toil began to bear fruit. There was oil in Libya. But just how much oil lay in reserve would take more months and years of unremitting effort by the oil companies to find out, working in close cooperation with the Libyan government. However, within a half-dozen years after the enacting of the petroleum law, as many as 10 important oil fields had been discovered in Libya. Such success as had so far been enjoyed or could be anticipated was due in large measure to the wisdom of the king and his advisors in drafting eminently fair legislation in the best long-range interests of the Libyan people.
Meanwhile, across the Arab world, revolutions were sweeping away monarchies. Egypt, Iraq, Yemen, all had fallen to military officers inspired by Nasser. Gaddafi knew Libya would be next. On the night of September 1st, 1969, the moment came while King Idris was abroad in Turkey for medical treatment. Gaddafi and his 3 officers seized power in a bloodless coup. Libya's monarchy was gone and a new era had begun. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you'll join us next time, where we go into more detail about the overthrowing of King Idris, the revolutionary command council taking power, the early reforms, and Gaddafi's charisma.